All right. Good evening, everyone. It's a beautiful springish night tonight. The regular meeting of the Independent School District 279 School Board is called to order at 6 o'clock p.m. on March 1st, 2022. This regular business meeting of the Osseo School Board is being conducted in person. This meeting can be monitored electronically by streaming online from the district website. An archived recording of tonight's meeting will also be available on the district website. Seated in front of you this evening from my left to your right are Director Heather Douglas, Director Thomas Brooks, Director Jackie Mosqueda-Jones, myself, Kelsey Dawson-Walton, Director Tanya Simons, Director Tamara Grady. We have school board representatives Cal Thorson at Maple Grove Senior High and Faith Sua from Osseo Senior High. Our other student representatives had other commitments this evening since we switched board meeting dates due to weather. Superintendent Corey McIntyre, General Counsel Tim Palmatier, and Superintendent's cabinet members Kelly Parpar, Steve Flisk, Brian Bass, and John Morstead are present in the boardroom. Those of you who can, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Director Douglas, will you please lead us?
Yes. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Board members, are there any additions to the agenda? Is there a motion to accept the agenda as printed?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion by Director Douglas, seconded by Director Grady to accept the agenda as printed. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed nay. Motion passes 6-0. Our next agenda item is student school board representative report. Cal, I'll start with you. Can you share a report?
Hi, I'm Cal Thorson. I'm from Maple Grove Senior High. So today I just wanted to talk about a more sports-centered report. Usually I report on some school stuff, but we're getting to into the heat of things with winter sports ending and spring sports starting. First, I'd like to highlight our girls and boys hockey teams. Our girls hockey team won the section, so they're headed to state, and our boys hockey team is in the section final tonight, so we're hoping that they can pull off a win and go to state as well. Our wrestling team had one section runner-up and one section champion. Our dance team actually got runner-up in state, so they had a great performance that you can see on Instagram, Maple Grove DT. It's a great performance. I would really recommend you go watch it. We also had our Snow Days dance, which was pushed back a little bit because of the online and distance learning, but we did get to have it. We had our Snow Days festivities, School Spirit Week, and our Pet Fest, so that was really fun. One thing that obviously, as we're getting near the end of the year, everyone's getting excited for spring sports. I know a lot of seniors, as well as myself, are really getting excited to choose their colleges and start getting ready for graduation parties, kind of just getting excited for that last trimester and the last leg of our senior year.
Thank you. Faith?
Hi, I'm Faith Sua, and I'm a senior from Osseo Senior High School. And today I'm going to highlight Real Talk and Osseo Speaks. So Real Talk is it's a meeting that we have every month for about like an hour and a half, and it's an opportunity for students of color to go into a space and be able to express themselves and be able to educate themselves on their history and themselves. And it's ran by an administrator at our school, Mr. Ritchie, and then also staff of District 279, Ms. Audra. And through Real Talk for the Black History Month, we put on our annual Osseo Speaks, where it was a program that we do every year, and it's where we educate and educate the community. And this year, we talked about the 5 most black influential people that we believe that were the backbone of the civil rights movement. And there was entertainment, there was educational purposes, and it was something that we seniors and everybody else in the community, our teachers, really enjoyed.
Thank you. The student representatives review the board meeting packet in advance and are prepared to answer questions from board members on issues to seek student input related to agenda items for this evening's meeting. Board members, do you have agenda items for which you'd like students' input on?
I would like to say that I've been to Osseo Speak several times, and it is amazing. So I wasn't able to make it this year, but I know it's amazing every single year. So thank you for highlighting that. On a related note, and Cal, thank you for all the cool sports things. The student from Maple Grove on the hockey's girls team did a really great interview on the news, so that was pretty cool. My question to you is not necessarily related to the current agenda, but we've been hearing a lot about racial incidences in high school sports, and I'm wondering if either of your high schools have students that you are interacting with have discussed any of those issues, or what thoughts you may have on that.
So I would say, obviously, there has been a lot of issues with racial discrimination at sporting events, and I've heard a lot about that. I don't know if there's been any specific talks about that at my school, but I would just say, obviously, the district released that that's unacceptable, and I mean, just hearing about that, it's really sickening, because I don't think anyone in the state of Minnesota wants that representing their school, and I think I would never want that representing Maple Grove Senior High. So, yeah.
Thank you.
I would say that we have talked about it, and especially it's actually crazy because we did talk about it on Monday, I believe, in 6th hour, and especially through social media, things hit us before it gets to you guys on the board, especially, yeah. So by the time it gets to you guys, we have seen it like 1,000 times, and I would say personally that we, at my school, we've had some racial incidents, especially from like people who are known sport or new athletes and stuff like that, and it was more specifically during the George Floyd time that it was really a high peak, and it was very sensitive. It was a very sensitive time, especially for people of color, and especially for me as well. And I would say that hearing the district put out, like, because our district hasn't gone viral about it, but hearing the district just condemn it automatically just makes us feel a little bit more reassured that if it does happen in our district, we will see more changes, we will see more effect than other districts are doing or what they're seeing. And it just makes us like, okay, if this does happen to us, we do have you guys to back us up, and we do have you guys here to help us and, change some of the rules if we need changing, and just basically like you guys are there to help us and be with us.
Thank you, and I'll pretend you didn't call me old.
May I ask a question on similar lines? I have had the opportunity to speak with some of our scholars and athletes at a couple of our different sites. Just kind of anecdotally, several of them have shared with me that their experience has been a directive from their coaches when it comes to interacting with each other, like when Park Center plays Osseo, or Osseo plays Maple Grove, or Maple Grove plays Park Center, things like that, that we're to support each other and even cheer for the opposing team because we're one district, and that those types of things won't be tolerated, at the types of racial things that we've been seeing in the media and hearing about happening to our students. And I'm just wondering if you've heard anything about that, where we're coming together as a district, or talked about those types of things, and what your experience is with each other and our teams' activities between our own district.
Okay, so for I go to a lot of the basketball games because that's a big thing at our school, especially when we face Maple Grove or we play Park Center. Especially Park Center, things definitely do get heated, but our athletic director, Mr. Kwan, does not accept anything like that. Like pre-game, when we're in the student sections, he tells us to make it very clear that, hey, things are going to get tense and stuff like that, but we will not disrespect the other school. We will not have any, basically, it's a fair game. And if we do lose, win or lose, we're all going to go home and we're still one district. So he makes it very clear whether whoever team we play, whether if it's a regular season game, whether if it's state qualifications or anything like that, he makes it very clear that he does not, and we in our school will not tolerate any disrespect for any school, whether it's in our district or an opposing school out of our district.
Thank you.
I would just say the same thing. So obviously it's not tolerated, but also I would like to say that for many schools in our district, I think that kids playing on the same sports teams or competing against each other in basketball, there's always a rivalry part of it.
Yeah.
But then a lot of kids from like Maple Grove and Osseo went to the same middle school. So I think I know of personal relationships that I have with kids from Osseo and Park Center that help that like outside of the sport aspect of relationships. And just like, I know that things get heated in game, but I like to think that we have pretty good relationships between our schools outside of the sports.
That's really great to hear. I heard a situation where Park Center and Osseo were at a conference together and they were competing against each other, but everyone else, but they cheered for each other louder than everybody else did. And it's just really inspiring to hear that. And I appreciate hearing that you guys are experiencing that too in your schools. So thank you for sharing.
Anyone else? Thank you so much for being here, and I think that this conversation that we're having now is something that I know Superintendent and his team are working on right now to really lift up our students' voices, because I was at a Park Center and Maple Grove basketball game on Friday night, and it was fun, definitely a rivalry. And, I think we also have to, we also travel other places too. So we want to ensure, like just what you had said, Faith, that our students feel safe and supported in all, situations with activities and athletics. So thank you so much for being here tonight. The next agenda item is audience opportunity to address the school board. I will review a few of the guidelines for those who will speak, that will speak to the board. During audience opportunity to address the board, I will call on each speaker who has submitted a speaker card. We ask that speakers keep their comments to 3 minutes. The board does not take action or discuss matters during this portion of the meeting. Speakers may be referred to the superintendent or staff if follow-up is necessary. The complete guidelines for public participation are provided on the meeting materials table and on the school board section of the website, district website. When I call your name, please come to the microphone and state your name, your topic, and also state whether you are a district resident. Melissa Buckley is first.
Good evening. I'm Melissa Buckley. I'm the IA at Rush Creek Elementary, and I'm also Executive Vice President of Education Minnesota, Osseo, and I'm here to just share some messages from our members of why we love working in Osseo area schools. So I'm just going to go through it. I love my students and work hard to support them every day. We need a contract that shows teachers that they are valued and appreciated. Actions speak louder than words. I love all parts of being a teacher in Osseo, but I do not have enough time to do it all. Lower class sizes and more prep would really help. I have loved teaching in Osseo area schools for 35 years because the students and families inspire me to keep learning and embrace change. Their support is amazing. Invest in the future. Support your Osseo area schools' frontline workers, teaching and building staff. We are still out there working hard every day. I love my coworkers and their passion for their content areas. We need elementary art and smaller class sizes to better meet the needs of our students. I love working for Osseo area schools. I need smaller class sizes so all students, I repeat, all students can achieve their dreams. My students are a huge part of my heart. I always go the extra mile for them because I love them. This is at the expense of my own personal health. I need workload to be seriously addressed. I need due process time built into my workday. Because my coworkers are the best, but I need appropriate classroom spaces and reasonable class sizes. We cannot afford for teachers to leave 279. I feel so lucky to work at Parkbrook. I love our students, staff, and families, and community. I wish workload and high demands didn't stop me from being able to give 100%. Unfortunately, things like meetings, walkthroughs, observations, paperwork, testing, missed prep time due to lack of subs has gotten in the way of doing what I love. I love the diversity of the students in Osseo School District and how eager they are to use the resources provided to them to cope with the challenging situations. We need a full-time counselor in every elementary building to meet the ever-increasing social-emotional challenges that our students face. I wish there were more ESP support for our Setting 3 special ed students. They need more mainstream time to learn from their peers. I love working for Osseo area schools because there is a great support from parents. However, I wish I could be more attentive to each one. I wish I could, with smaller class sizes, I would have more time. I love working for District 279. We have great leadership. I could really use smaller class sizes to help my students achieve their dreams. I love working for Osseo area schools because we serve a very diverse population of students. But I wish there were more resources to connect better with EL families. Adding talking points has been one great resource. I love my students and our facilities. However, we need, faculties. We need more thorough and directed curriculum for our special ed students. We need curriculum for reading, math, vocation, interpersonal skills, and for students significantly below grade level. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Amy Gale.
I got a staff. Thank you.
My name is Amy Gale. I'm an art teacher. I've worked at Park Center, Maple Grove Junior High, and now I'm an instructional coach at Osseo Senior High. Members of the board and cabinet, thank you for your time. On behalf of the art teachers of District 279, we sent a letter to the board members on Thursday, February 24th. In that letter, we shared how arts education creates connection, community, and belonging for all our students, which is needed now more than ever. I'm here tonight to speak for the students of our district. All students in District 279 deserve to have access to experiences that the visual art classes provide. To do this, it's imperative that we staff all elementary schools with visual arts specialists. Corey Brown, our visual arts teacher at Birch Grove Elementary School for the Arts, is unable to be here tonight, but asked us to share her perspective on the benefits the arts provides to her students every day. This is part of her letter. When a student enters my classroom, they enter a space that is truly their own. I say from day one that this is their art studio. In my classroom, it is geared towards students finding their own path. In my classroom, there is no such thing as right or wrong answers. It is a space where they can be themselves. What I teach is more than art. I teach critical thinking skills in the form of critiques, where they have to evaluate and justify their choices when it comes to their work. I teach confidence in the form of giving each student choice when it comes to what kind of art they want to make, because there is no one way to create. On a daily basis, you see the art room true engagement in the subject matter. You will find some students working on perfecting the perfect sunset painting, while another is working on a tabletop soccer game made out of cardboard. You will also find students working on finding their own anime style, while another is creating a comic book. Through their time at Birch Grove, because they have full choice and are able to form their own path, students find their voice, a way to better describe how they feel about the changing world around them. In my room, they are allowed to be 100% themselves. Now just imagine if this was able to happen in all our elementary schools. Corey wants to invite you all to her classroom. Her door is always open. She would love to see you come in and see the amazing things students do. On behalf of the students and the art teachers in your district, we ask for your support to bring art specialists into the elementary schools. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you. Our next agenda item is superintendent's report. Hand it over to you, Superintendent McIntyre.
Thank you, Chair Dawson Walton, and good evening, board members and our audience tonight. Nice to see you all here this evening.
Excuse me, I
Full-
thought we had another speaker.
I only have two.
Oh, sorry.
We may have more.
Never mind. Thank you. Sorry. Tobin Johnson.
Oh.
Sorry.
say I'm forgotten but not gone.
No, it's my fault. I put it in the wrong place.
No, it's all good, all good. So I'm excited to be here tonight at the first mask optional board meeting that we've had in a while. My name's Tobin Johnson, and I have 2 kids at Maple Grove Senior, 1 kid at Maple Grove Middle. And I know you're working on some really important things tonight and ongoing. But one thing I think that we need to make sure that we have is continue the conversation around our COVID policy, reviewing that policy, the decision-making behind the policy, and how it's impacted other areas. We need to understand what truly worked and what did not, so we're ready for the next time that something like this happens. With that in mind, I have some questions for the board. First, the current masking resolution, this board in January abdicated its authority on forced masking entirely to Superintendent McIntyre indefinitely. When are you going to revoke that authority? Second question, about the change in policy. What caused the abrupt change in the forced masking policy? Were you waiting for the CDC to change their highly politicized stance after months of criticism from across the political spectrum? Or was it the emergence of embarrassing photos from early February's gala showing most of this board and Superintendent McIntyre partying maskless while kids continued to suffer in masks? Third thing, equity in the achievement gap. With the CDC admitting that masking and lockdowns have caused developmental delays, it's obvious our district's school-by-school masking model that is still technically in place would disproportionately and negatively impact kids most at risk of falling farther behind their peers. Did you not understand that fact when you approved the model, or were you simply okay with it? Either answer is bad. There are a few more backward-looking questions that need to be answered, but I want to spend the rest of my time looking forward. There are a few issues that have come up the last couple of years. One is remote schooling. The district went remote at the peak of the cold and flu season this year, something that had never happened pre-pandemic. Should we as parents plan for remote schooling each and every cold and flu season? Second thing, assaults and violence. As crime rates have skyrocketed in our communities, early evidence indicates it's spilled into our schools, affecting scholars and teachers alike. Richfield recently experienced a school shooting that may have happened in part due to the school eliminating its school resource officers. What are you going to do to improve the safety of our schools for our scholars and staff? Third, teachers' personal politics. We know politics have gotten very divisive. We're seeing teachers' personal politics seeping into virtually every class, and most of those classes have nothing to do with the study of politics. England recently issued guidelines requiring teachers to be politically impartial and avoid advocacy. Do you support developing similar guidelines? At the unofficial end of the pandemic, we've seen the achievement gap widening, enrollment drop despite all the new home construction in the district, and highly competent teachers leaving at an accelerated pace, while this board lurches farther away from focusing on reading, writing, and arithmetic. There's one last question that needs to be answered. Martin Luther King Jr. said, quote, "The time is always right to do right," unquote. In November, the voters will answer the question for a few of you. Did you do right? Thank you.
All right, our next agenda item is the superintendent's report. Superintendent McIntyre.
All right, sorry for the premature start there earlier. But thank you, Chair Dawson-Walton. And as you all know, a regular part of the superintendent's report is to share points of pride in our district. Points of pride celebrate students or scholars, staff, community members who are contributing to the accomplishment of our mission, which is to inspire and prepare each and every scholar with the confidence, courage, and competence to achieve their dreams, contribute to community, and engage in a lifetime of learning. My superintendent's report tonight includes more items than normal. We've had a lot of wonderful points of pride tonight, so I've asked our cabinet members of our team, to assist in sharing some of those points of pride from these last few weeks. Before we get started here, each February, our schools celebrate Black History Month, and in my superintendent's report, I want to highlight, and with the help of some of our cabinet members, many of those activities as points of pride, although it's not inclusive of everyone because there was a lot happening, and we're just going to highlight a few. So just with a selection of some of those many activities, we're going to try to abbreviate that just to fit into this portion of the board meeting. So I'm going to first turn it over to Assistant Superintendent Steve Flisk, who will start off our presentation this evening. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you. Good evening. So at Parkbrook Elementary School, students created a public piece of artwork. Students colored a hand using skin tone crayons, selecting the one that they feel best represents their skin tone. And the hands of students were displayed around a quote from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech. Classroom teachers at Park Brook incorporated lessons studying Lois Mailou Jones and Michael Jordan. A display case at the front of the building was decorated to celebrate Black History Month, and posters were placed around the school where students can see them walking in the halls. At Cedar Island Elementary School, students learned about Black American artists, activists, leaders, inventors, teachers, and scientists, focusing on stories of joy and resistance. Students have read about many heroes and leaders such as King Tut, George Washington Carver, Barack Obama, Mae Jemison, Sojourner Truth, Harriet Tubman, Frederick Douglass, Katherine Johnson, Jesse Owens, and more. Students at Fernbrook Elementary School also learned about key figures like Jackie Robinson, Rosa Parks, Martin Luther King, and Ruby Bridges. Students shared reports on various historical figures and the impact they made. Most music students learned about the song I'm on My Way, which is a song about escaping slavery using images of following the North Star. Garden City Elementary School invited families to participate in National African American Parent Involvement Day on February 14th. Felicia Phillips, educational support professional and author, talked about her new books, Coping with COVID for Kids and Dear Black Girl, You Can. She wrote these books to explain challenging concepts and to encourage young people to take action in their lives. After reading Dear Black Girl, You Can, signed copies of both books, which were given away as raffle prizes. At Oakview Elementary School, students received daily trivia about Black History Month. Second, third, and fourth graders learned about Black leaders, while fifth graders created thinking maps of Black History Month. Edinbrook Elementary School fourth graders put on a social justice concert inspired by the book Change Sings, a children's anthem by Amanda Gorman. Students sang songs including Do the Good You Know by Mike Wilson, Be the Change by Mark Kaplan and Colin Britt, and We Are Here by Teresa Jennings. Students at Palmer Lake Elementary School celebrated Black History Month by learning about local Supreme Court Justice retiree, Minnesota Viking, and children's author Alan Page. To celebrate Black History Month, teachers at many of the schools, including Birch Grove Elementary School, Garden City Elementary School, Fernbrook Elementary School, and Zanewood, decorated their doors to bring staff and students together around collaboration and community. Students at Zanewood Elementary additionally heard daily Black History Month facts over the morning announcements. At Fair Oaks Elementary School, students have been learning about one or two influential figures a day right before their morning meetings. The students have loved it and look forward to who they are learning about next. Some of their favorites were Beyonce, Mae Jemison, Chadwick Boseman, and Muhammad Ali. Students also have read multiple books about Black history and are linking Black History Month to many Olympic athletes, which is aligned with the Classroom Champions work and Winter Olympics celebration at Fair Oaks Elementary. Now to Kelly Parker.
Stephen Reister, band teacher at Northview Middle School, customizes music for his students in order to meet his students where they are at and to connect to them culturally. During Black History Month, Reister is engaging students in African American spirituals and teaching the rich history of the civil rights movement. His band class will be performing We Shall Not Be Moved and Ain't Gonna Let Nobody Turn Me Around at their upcoming concert on March 23rd. According to Reister, the most important thing is to find material and literature for the kids that speaks to them, that's part of their experience and is meaningful in their life, not just mine. Also at Northview Middle School, Black History team building activities took place on Thursdays during advisory for the month of February, and students led an initiative to wear all black on February 15th in honor of Black History Month. The Student Leadership Council at Osseo Middle School worked to create posters to celebrate the various heritage months throughout the year, including Black History Month. Osseo Middle School also featured Black authors in their front media center display. Brooklyn Middle School welcomed Michelle Perdue to speak to a group of 7th and 8th grade students for an amazing and rewarding experience for students to learn together about themselves and their own resilient spirits. Park Center Senior High School hosted a Black Professionals Career Panel for students during advisory, which allowed students the opportunity to meet professionals and learn about education and training for careers. At Maple Grove Senior High, many visuals were displayed in the hallways and stairwells depicting significant Black Americans and their contributions and achievements. Students started their day hearing PA announcements introducing Black History Month, including a reading of a Maya Angelou poem. The Media Center also has several displays and book promotions related to Black History Month. Osseo Senior High hosted an event on Monday, February 28th, called Osseo Speaks, which was organized by students and featured several speakers, dancers, and videos. The scholars from 279 Online's News from the Den team celebrated Black History Month by highlighting important historical figures, interviewing a Black teacher, conducting a scholar interview, and sharing the African Pledge. This was 100% scholar-driven and showcased 279 Online's commitment to equity and encouraged and supported scholar voice. OEC celebrated Black History Month with features on overcoming challenges, self-advocacy, and pursuing dreams each week in interpersonal skills classes. Students also researched Katherine Johnson, Dorothy Vaughan, Mary Jackson, Vivian Thomas, Jackie Robinson, Muhammad Ali, and other unsung heroes highlighted in Kevin Hart's Guide to Black History. Scholars also created dioramas of their personal identities. Thank you to all of our schools for their efforts in celebrating Black History Month.
All right. Thank you, Assistant Superintendent Parpar. I get to highlight some other points of pride, starting with the high school level. Every year, high schools select 2 scholars for the AAA award, which stands for Academics, Arts, and Athletics. The award is sponsored by the Minnesota State High School League and honors seniors throughout the state who have a 3.0 or higher grade point average and who participate in league-sponsored athletic and fine arts activities. 6 students in Osseo area schools have been nominated this year, including Jeremiah Groff, Alana Bauer, Christina Zhu, Parker Colin, Anna Carsons, and Cole Thorson. Osseo Middle School 8th grader Tegan Rivers and her team BOB, which stands for Build Our Bots, qualified for the State First Tech Challenge Robotics Competition. The competition was held February 11th through the 12th at the Washington Technology Magnet School. At the state FTC competition, Rivers and her team won the Judges Award, which is given at the discretion of the judges to teams whose unique efforts, performances, or dynamics merit recognition but do not fit into any of the other categories. Congratulations to Tegan. All right. Positivity, good vibes, and diligent work led the Park Center cheer team to win a regional championship in the MCCA state cheer competition for game day non-tumbling division. The team then headed to Orlando, Florida to take on nationals, where they placed second. We put in a lot of work, and we haven't gone to nationals since 2020. We put our time into it, and we earned it, said Sadie Wren, one of our graduating seniors. The Maple Grove Senior High School boys and girls Nordic ski teams placed second at their section tournaments on February 9th, with both teams qualifying for the state tournament. The state tournament took place February 16th through 17th at Giants Ridge Golf and Ski Resort. Riley Mildebrandt, a sophomore who has been on the team for 3 years, said, "It means a lot. It is a lot of hard work by everyone on the team, and it's a great reward."
Congratulations to Birch Grove and Weaver Lake for being awarded the 2022 School of Excellence National Award of Merit by the Magnet Schools of America. National Merit Awards are given to magnet schools that demonstrate a commitment to high academic standards, curriculum innovation, successful desegregation and diversity efforts, and strong parent and community involvement. Birch Grove kindergarten teacher Lauren Hoof was nominated for Teacher of the Year. It was always my dream to be a teacher, so to be nominated for Teacher of the Year is a huge honor. Teaching can be tough, but also rewarding. I look up to so many educators and feel all educators are Teachers of the Year in my eyes. So this nomination makes me feel so special and proud of who I am as an educator, Hoof shared. Congratulations, Laura, and thanks for representing Osseo area schools.
School counselors play an insurmountable role in the lives of students. During National School Counseling Week, February 7th through the 11th, Osseo area schools recognize the contributions and tremendous impact school counselors have on ensuring students have the essential support needed to succeed. Judy Anderson, a school counselor at Brooklyn Middle School, shared, "My first group of students is now seniors, and I've had some of them visit. I've run into them in the community. Some say, 'Miss Anderson, it's so great to see you.' And when you get little things like that, it makes it all worth it." Thank you to all school counselors for all that you do.
From ensuring students get to and from school safely, battling road conditions, and providing an uplifting ride, bus drivers are essential to make a meaningful student experience. Bus Driver Appreciation Day was February 23rd, and Osseo area schools appreciates First Student, North Star, and all bus drivers for their continued work to ensure students receive a safe and welcoming journey. School bus drivers and bus attendants are always the first and last members of our team to see our students each day. They build relationships with students and provide them with guidance, said Troy Streifels, Director of Facilities, Transportation, and Risk Management. Thank you.
New Year's is a celebration among East and Southeastern Asian cultures, and the Park Center Asian Club honored the tradition at the 8th Annual Asian New Year on February 5th. Lindsay Lee, graduating senior and public relations officer for Asian Club, said, "There is a big Hmong community, so I think being able to not only have a Hmong New Year, but an Asian New Year that can represent cultures and ethnicities in our community is really important to me. I'm really big on Asian representation, and doing this for 8 years is great."
So board members, a little extra examples of our points of pride, and I think of our newly crafted vision statement: to unleash and enhance the brilliance of our scholars to thrive and change the world. Amazing examples of our students and scholars doing that, and the amazing staff helping make that happen. So we just had to give you all those examples this evening. It was a busy month in February, clearly. So lastly, the Minnesota School Boards Association named February 21st to the 25th as School Board Recognition Week as a time to build awareness and understanding of the vital function you all have as an elected Board of Education and how that plays in our society. So I just want to take a moment to thank you and recognize the important work of our board and all of you here in ISD 279. So some points I want to make about that. So strong schools help us build strong communities. And our ISD 279 school board devotes countless hours making sure our scholars are helping, we're helping every scholar to learn at a higher level. You're deeply committed to that, and I see it each and every day. The key work of school boards is to improve student achievement and increase community engagement to promote education. And in order to accomplish that, school board sets a vision for the school district. You determine strategies and how to accomplish those goals. The board sets in place a system of accountability to monitor progress on these goals. And the board serves as an advocacy function, building community and staff support to attain those goals. Now, this is challenging for all of you in a district of almost 21,000 students to perform up to those standards, and that is no small task. Add to that the responsibility of pre-K and adult learners. It's easy to see the importance of your service. And I've said it many times before, and I do think that our public understands it, that school board members have a tremendous impact. And really influencing our children's future and the quality of the life in our communities. But I'm not always sure that our community members and others understand the demands of your school board service. I know you spend countless hours preparing for and participating in regular meetings and work sessions and many other events throughout the district. You devote time to studying educational issues and laws and other policy-related items, and listening time and time again to the interests of our students and scholars and our staff and our parents. You're never really off the job. And we talk about that often, no matter where you go. So in recognition, you're receiving a packet of handmade cards made by our community-based vocational assessment and training scholars in the district. This is a small token of our appreciation for you. And on behalf of our scholars, staff, and our ISD 279 community, I'd like to honor and again thank you for your service, and even including our school board reps here. We'll recognize them later in the year. But just everything that you do for our scholars, their families, our staff, and our community. Thank you very much. All right. So Chair Dawson-Walton, I know it's a little lengthy tonight, but that concludes our superintendent reports this evening.
Thank you so much, everyone. Every time we have so much to be proud of in our district. And looking at some of those smiles, the dance team from Park Center, it was kind of like giving me chills because they were so excited, and all the updates on Black History Month is so important, and we know that Black history is American history, so we honor Black history this month. It's all day, every day, and all that we do. And I loved all the pictures, and I especially loved, I saw on the door that one quote, when they go low, we go high. Yeah. I just really, I loved that, so that was awesome. So, all right, up next is...
I have one last announcement. I missed it, but it's worth mentioning. Just a reminder to our kindergarten families, they can now enroll for the 22-23 school year. We're already thinking ahead, and that is that online registration process is open. So.
I just got my letter.
Okay,
and I was like, what? My baby.
Thank you.
All right. Just going to kindergarten. All right. Our next agenda item is school board reports. Director Douglas, do you have a report or update?
Oh, yeah, I do. We had a DPAC meeting last night, actually. And our subcommittees came together so we were divided out, so I was only with one group for the majority of the meeting, the data and assessment team. And Director Mosqueda Jones was with another part of the subcommittee. I'm sure she'll update on that. We came together at the end, and I'm really excited because our subcommittees are really in the final stretch. They're forming their recommendations that they're going to be making to us here in April. And so that's really exciting work that's coming forward. We're still ironing out a few things, but that will be coming forward soon, and they're working really, really hard. Some of them are putting in extra meetings, and we've had lots of leaders and experts within our district sharing information with those subcommittees to help them inform the recommendations that they'll be making to us in April. So that work is well underway, and I'm very excited for it.
Thank you. Director Brooks?
Yes, I have two very brief reports. One, I had an opportunity to attend the TNEC meeting of the Tribal Nations Education Committee, and that was actually kind of a perfect follow-up to the APAC presentation that we just received at the last meeting. So it was really just an opportunity to sort of dive a little deeper and to really talk about what's actually happening, the changes that still need to be made, and why some of the changes haven't been made. So that was really the topic of that meeting. And then the other one I wanted to provide an update on is the RISE Committee. So there was at least one RISE Committee meeting since the last board meeting. They are taking on a pretty big task for the district right now, and trying to figure out how to get information, whether that's complaints or requests for help, whatever that may be, how to get that from parents to the board or the superintendent, how to get it to the right place and how to make sure that there's some sort of accountability attached to that. And so they've really been talking through all the different models that we have in the district for providing feedback and whether or not they are effective for parents or even scholars to report what's happening around them in the schools. And so that's something that I'll probably continue to update you all on over the next several meetings. But really happy that they're tackling this topic as we know that engagement continues to be, I think, one of the biggest complaints and asks from the community and staff as well. So that is all I have for now.
Thank you. Director Mosqueda Jones.
Yes, just to piggyback on Director Douglas's DPAC report, I was part of the Program Evaluation and Assessment Subcommittee, and they are also really close to having their recommendations fleshed out for our April meeting, and I'm excited to hear what they have to say and their rationale, and they've been working very hard on it. I also had a couple of 287 board meetings. First, the typical stuff, we had a budget update, and we had a joint purchasing agreement with 279, so 287, 279 worked together on a joint purchasing agreement, which 287 approved, and we did in our last board meeting in the consent agenda, just to help 287 and 279 have better purchasing power for food services. The big happenings in 287, as most people have heard, is the shootings that occurred right outside of South Education Center in Richfield. That was a 287 district school, not a Richfield school. There were Richfield students in there. There are 279 students there. There are students from 11 different districts in that program. The things are still ongoing for investigations, so I'm not giving any details. Whatever's in the news is what could be shared anyway. It hit 287 really, really hard, as you can imagine. All 5 students are from the same program. The ones in orange jumpsuits and the ones that were affected. And as you can imagine, the staff there had relationships with all 5 of those students, and it's been really difficult. Our last meeting, we had a safety update from an outside organization that is coming to do some evaluation on the safety protocols. The initial reports are that 287 has a really robust safety program and safety protocols, and that in the process they are going to work to make sure that the safety recommendations fit the culture of 287. And the board had a closed meeting and did a restorative circle, helping the board and other people process feelings and work through the trauma that has been going on in 287. So I'm just going to ask to keep your thoughts with 287 as they navigate this difficult time, and for all the students and families of the students involved.
Jackie, can I ask a follow-up question on that?
Yes.
I had heard that one of the students was their home school was one of our sites when they were in elementary school. Do you?
Yes.
So some of our communities also been pretty seriously impacted by this
One of the students was at one of our elementaries, and so our staff have reached out to talk about how that's been affecting them as well.
Thank you.
So.
Thank you,
Mhm.
Jackie. Director Simons?
So, I have 2 reports. The ECMAC committee, the Enrollment and Capacity Management Advisory Committee, met on January 31st. And all of the agendas and the content is out there on the Advisory Committee webpage. So we reviewed a lot of information regarding development in Northwest Maple Grove and what that might mean for our enrollment projections, and then took a deep dive into all of our enrollment projection data as a group and in sub-teams. So do check that out if you have interest about what our projections look like and what's happening in terms of development. The other meeting that I had, Brooklyn Bridge Alliance for Youth, we had a meeting on February 2nd, I believe it was, and that was the first meeting for the kind of new board members. So it's they've got representatives from across different constituencies and jurisdictions, so a lot of people were turning over. So it had an update on the priorities and progress from the past and going forward. After that, we also did have the Brooklyn Bridge Alliance Youth Awards, and we did have some of our own staff members who were identified and recognized as finalists in those awards as well. So that was exciting to see that good work being brought forward there. So those were the two committees I think I had.
And the Brooklyn Bridge Alliance is going to come.
Yes,
Yeah.
they're I think next agenda item or next meeting session.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you, Director Grady.
Okay, I've continued to go to negotiations meeting, and I am learning so much about what everybody does and how it all works. And we have another meeting tomorrow. That's it.
All right. I do have a committee report. I serve as chair of the Association of Metropolitan School Districts, and something along the lines that we've been really working on is addressing with the State High School League and other educational partners many of the reports that have happened at athletic events across the state, and just as the students were talking about this evening. And so I wanted to read the letter, the joint statement that came out on behalf of AMSD, Minnesota Association of School Administrators, Minnesota Rural Education Association, the Minnesota Elementary School Principals Association, Minnesota Administrators for Special Education, Schools for Equity and Action, and Minnesota School Board Association, Minnesota Association of Secondary School Principals, as Minnesota's Interscholastic Activities Administrator Association, as well as the State High School League. Recently, students, schools, and communities have experienced racist events that tell us we as school leaders have more work to do. Mistreatment of anyone on any basis is not only intolerable, it is something we as educational leaders unequivocally condemn. Racial, religious, or sexual harassment is simply unacceptable in our schools. The goal of safe, supportive school environments is of paramount importance. It is essential that every effort be made and action is taken to ensure that all students have a safe environment in which to learn and participate in activities. In addition, victims of racist words or actions need support. Together, we commit to making every effort to ensure that students have a safe environment in which to learn and participate in activities. To that end, the education organizations listed, which I already talked about, will launch an initiative to improve behavior at high school events as well as schools in general with the assistance of professional partners. And this will include organized student groups to develop a model of code of conduct for all schools. Once developed, this code will be distributed to school boards, administrators, coaches, parents, and students statewide. The code will cover all aspects of participation in activities as well as at school. It will include activities, athletes, spectators, staff, students, and parents. Convene a student conference through the Minnesota State High School League and other MASSP and MNIA, so I'd have to look what that says. Involving student leaders involved in athletics, fine arts, and other activities to raise awareness about student conduct, bullying, gender, race, and other issues, and assist in the development of tools for all schools. Identify and provide resources to assist schools and administrators in planning, preparing, and implementing best practices to address and eliminate these harmful behaviors and support of students and others who have been impacted. Schools will continue to promote and enforce existing conduct rules through district policies prohibiting racial harassment of any kind and through Bylaw 209 of the State High School League rules that expressly prohibits racial, sexual, and religious harassment. Violations of the policy require the loss of student eligibility. So the organizations that were listed will continue to work directly with our schools in addressing these behaviors and will keep schools and interested parties informed of progress in these efforts. Together we will make a difference. And I wanted to read that because it's so important. It impacts every single corner of our state, all over. And as the students talked about their experiences in Osseo, Superintendent McIntyre put out a statement about in Osseo area schools, we stand together as one district to address scholar and spectator behaviors, athletic and activity events in our local communities that are racist, threatening, intolerant, and unsportsmanlike. We will not tolerate any behaviors, acts, or statements of racial, religious, and/or sexual harassment, mistreatment, or bullying of any kind. These behaviors directly counter our district's commitment to building trustful, meaningful relationships. Osseo Area Schools is dedicated to creating safe, welcoming, and inclusive environments where no scholar experiences trauma or harm, along with all who attend athletic and activity events within our district and outside of our districts. In our area, Osseo Area Schools, we stand on our district core values: belonging, which we just, the board just approved, developing meaningful relationships that build trust, understanding, and community, intrinsic value. Each scholar, staff member, and family is valued and respected for their perspective, experience, and contribution. Inclusion, intentionally engaging diverse voices and perspectives equitably and respectfully. Our district will continue its commitment to uphold and protect the humanity of each and every scholar, family, staff member, and community member. So I wanted to read that because it all ties together between our role here on the board, but also metro-wide and throughout the state. And I know Superintendent McIntyre and his cabinet are working to really uplift our voices of our students, to hear their experience. And so there'll be more to come, in our next board meeting, to hear what those voices are and what action, as a school district community we need to take to ensure our students are supported, not only within our district, because I think, you're right, Director Douglas, we have 3 very competitive high schools, and it's so fun going to games, but also outside of our district. What are those experiences, and how do we support our students? So, all right, with that, the next agenda item is the consent agenda. Board members, are there any items that you would like to remove for separate consideration? Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as printed?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, motion by Director Douglas, seconded by Director Mosquito Jones. Any discussion? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes 6-0. First action item is the fiscal year 2022 mid-year budget adjustments. Information will be shared by Kelly Benusa, Director of Business Services.
Good evening, Chair Dawson-Walton, board members, and Superintendent McIntyre. The purpose of this evening's presentation is to provide information on the fiscal year 2022 mid-year budget revisions. Tonight, you'll see a number of places where expenditure adjustments continue to be impacted by COVID-19. These items are noted in the presentation as one-year-only adjustments and will need to be added back to the fiscal year 23 adopted budget. Our trends have been significantly impacted since March of 2020, and this is our best estimate at this time. At last year's June meeting, the board approved the adopted budgets for all of our budgeted funds. The first column on this slide shows the adopted budgets for the General Operating Transportation Fund. The third column, highlighted in blue, are the mid-year budget adjustments for revenue and expenditures. The net change is an increase to fund balance of $9.6 million. This is made up of an increase of 1.7% for revenues and a decrease of 1.99% for expenditures. Overall, the net change is 1.85% of the combined revenue and expenditure budgets. We continue to project deficit spending for fiscal year 22 by $6.5 million. The revenue budget changes are as follows. $2.6 million net increase in general education revenue. Areas of increase are for the 2.45% increase in the basic formula allowance and decreases for 106 fewer adjusted pupil units and 81 fewer extended time adjusted pupil units from the adopted budget. We have a $2.5 million increase in special education revenue. We have a prior year under accrual of $2.65 million due to updated estimates from MDE for reduced tuition paid to other districts, and a decrease of almost $122,000 for current year calculations. There's a $1 million net decrease in desegregation transportation. The fiscal year 22 calculation is decreasing by almost $1.4 million due to less transportation costs in fiscal year 21 and more students transported in fiscal year 22. This decrease is partially offset by the prior year under accrual of $350,000. There's also a $348,000 increase in tax shift for changes in unemployment and career tech expenses. This last slide shows revenue for some of the smaller adjustments for third-party billing and abatement aid. All of these items total the $4.3 million net positive revenue adjustment. Next, the expenditure budget is decreasing by $5.3 million from the adopted budget. We analyzed the expenditures in 4 main categories: salaries, benefits, purchase services, and supplies and other items. Starting with salaries, we have a $3.7 million decrease for open positions, and these are one-time savings. We have a $2.4 million decrease for 30.4 FTEs that were not deployed due to enrollment decline, and then also $876,000 of this decrease, or 8.2 FTE, will need to be added back for one-time savings for the 279 online site. There's also a decrease of $176,000 for a decrease for open nursing positions, and this item is offset by an increase in purchase services for nursing support at sites. Areas of increase are $3.2 million for contract settlements and estimates, $1,059,000 increase for attrition and allocation from the adopted budget to the mid-year adjustment, and this item is offset by a decrease by the same amount in benefits, and then a $790,000 increase for substitute teacher budget capacity. This is a combined decrease in salaries of $1.2 million. However, there's $4.6 million of one-time savings that are going to need to be added back to the fiscal year 23 adopted budget for salaries. Next, we'll look at employee benefit expenditures. There's a $1,059,000 decrease in attrition and allocation that we just saw as the offset in salaries, a $645,000 decrease in employer-paid health insurance premiums due to fewer participants than projected, employee plan migration, and estimates for unsettled contracts, which are one-time savings, along with smaller decreases for our HSA employer contributions, workers' compensation, and the retirement savings plan contributions. This is a combined decrease in employee benefits of $1.9 million from the adopted budget. $921,000 of one-time savings will need to be added back to the fiscal year 23 adopted budget for benefits. Purchase services had an overall decrease in expenditures, $2.2 million decrease in transportation costs, mainly due to lower enrollment than previously projected, which impacts our routes, and then a $100,000 decrease in PSEO tuition. Areas of increase are $176,000 for consulting services for nursing support at sites, and we saw this offset in salaries, and then a $135,000 increase in special education consulting services. This is a combined decrease in purchase services of $2 million from the adopted budget. $2.1 million of one-time savings will need to be added back to the fiscal year 23 adopted budget for purchase services. Finally, supplies and other expenditures overall decreased for secured entrance projects already completed and an increase in the federal indirect chargeback rate for a net decrease of $199,000. Overall, the net expenditure budget adjustment is $5.3 million less than the 22 adopted budget. $7.6 million of one-time savings will need to be added back to the fiscal year 23 adopted budget. On the next slides, we'll see this impact on the base and tactic documents. Next, we'll transition to how the mid-year adjustments impact our financial forecast model. This slide shows the baseline projection for future years, including the strategic investments proposed for fiscal years 23. It has been updated for the fiscal year 22 revised budget. It has the projected 23 through 26, which show the combined operational reductions of $31 million would be needed to maintain a minimum fund balance of 5% if base assumptions hold for the next 4 years. Next, we will look at the tactic projections for future years, which include the strategic investments for fiscal year 23 through the LRP process. The tactic projection includes revenues and expenditure tactics that are utilized to impact future projected years. So just like the baseline projection, this tactic portion includes the revised budget for fiscal year 22. Fund balance is projected at $86.2 million and 32.74% of budgeted expenditures. It also includes the revenue tactics for fiscal year 23, which include a known 2% increase to the basic formula allowance, a 1% increase to the basic formula allowance for fiscal year 24 and 26, which are the first years of the next two bienniums, known levy adjustments for fiscal year 22 and 23 and 24. And the final item to highlight for revenue is the known increase for ADSIS, which began in fiscal year 22. Expenditure tactics include enrollment alignment adjustments based on the 5-year projection. The fiscal year 23 increase of $1.76 million is included in the long-range financial planning summary that you'll see tonight. A reduction in expenditure trend from 3.5% to 3% is included through fiscal year 26. Continuing the ADSIS program for future years is also included. And then fiscal year 23 and 24 includes savings using the $9.4 million of federal funds each year to sustain programs and services. Those expenditures need to be added back for fiscal year 25. Then we've got the fiscal year 23, which includes a known add back for those one-time savings of $7.6 million in expenditures from the 22 mid-year adjustment due to the continued impact of COVID-19. And then we've got the $1.1 million of ongoing strategic investments, which are included in the long-range financial planning proposal for fiscal year 23. The add back of $7.6 million of one-time savings and $1.1 million of additional strategic investments for fiscal year 23 total almost $8.8 million and consume nearly all of the $9.6 million in budget improvement from the fiscal year 22 mid-year adjustment. So by utilizing the tactics for both revenue and expenditures, the projected fiscal year 24 through 26 show combined operational reductions of $15 million would be needed to maintain a minimum fund balance level of 5%. This next tactic version does not include the proposed strategic investments for fiscal year 23. This changes the model and reduces the operational reductions by $3 million for combined operational reductions of $12 million, which would be needed to maintain a minimum fund balance over the next 3 years. The next fund we'll review is the Food and Nutrition Services Fund. Revenue and expenditure budgets are decreasing for a net positive change to fund balance of $605,000. Revenues are decreasing due to not providing weekend meals and are offset by increases to the reimbursement rate and breakfast program participation. Expenses are decreasing for open positions of staff and less food costs from not providing the weekend meals. This was a change from the previous year since we are now required to operate under the Seamless Summer Options Program rather than the Summer Food Service Program, which does not allow for weekend meals when school is in session during the regular school year for fiscal year 22. The Community Service Fund revenue budget will be increased by $189,000 and the expenditure budget will be decreased by $747,000 or 6% for a net positive change of $936,000. Revenues increased because of more participation in adult and youth enrichment programs and increased facility rentals. Expenditures decreased due to staff shortages and open positions in the Kid Stop program. The Capital Expenditure Land Proceeds Fund revenue budget will be decreased by $108,000 and the expenditure budget will be increased by $64,000 for a net negative change to fund balance of $173,000. Revenue is decreasing for the state aid portion of operating capital and decreased interest revenue. Expenditures are increasing for contract settlements and estimates for salaries, which are partially offset by 2 projects which were delayed for a year. The last fund, the Debt Service Fund, the revenue and expenditure budgets will be decreased for a net positive change of $201,000. Fund balance at June 30th, 2022 is projected to be $4.9 million or almost 29% of expenditures. This last slide shows a summary of the net mid-year budget revisions in the 5 funds we budget for. And that concludes the presentation.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions or comments? Kelly? No? No? Were you going to say something? No. Okay, I thought you were. I was speaking. Okay. All right. Is there a motion to approve the fiscal year 2022 mid-year budget adjustments for general operating, transportation, food and nutrition services, community service, capital expenditure, land proceeds, and debt service services?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, motion by Director Brooks, seconded by Director Simons. Is there any discussion? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes 6-0. Thank you, Kelly. The next action item is the fiscal year 2023 budget approval. Information will be shared by John Morstad, Executive Director of Finance and Operations.
Thank you, Chair Dawson Walton, Superintendent McIntyre, and board members. Good evening. The purpose of this evening's presentation is to provide information about the fiscal year 2023 recommended operating budget adjustments and the fiscal year 2023 capital expenditure budget. Our recommendation this evening will be that the school board approve both of these budgets as presented. Recommendations are being shared this evening are part of an annual budget planning process. Budget decisions are made using long-range financial planning framework, or LRFP. This framework includes a financial forecasting model that Director Benusa just touched on, which projects out for the next several years and provides a basis for our budget planning while focusing on financial sustainability. The budget decisions are evaluated using a collaborative approach that engages a multitude of district stakeholders. Budget planning includes aligning our resources with the mission and strategic plan, an assessment of the impact on productivity and essential services, and compliance with legal requirements. The school board engages in several work sessions throughout the budget development process, and at the February 15th work session, the board heard about and considered budget adjustment recommendations. So this evening, our first item for you to consider is the adjustments to the 2023 budget. In keeping with the direction provided by the school board, the fiscal year 2023 general operating budget adjustment recommendations include maintaining a zero-based budget. The LRFP budget summary document in your packet gives detail of all the program, efficiency, abandonment, and redirection, or PAIRs, including the category for the change, the dollar amount, and the summary for the change. The identified amounts you see here are not part of the general fund. They're actually, and are not a spending increase. These are items specifically highlighted, the $2.4 million that will be covered under the learning loss portion of the ESSER 3 grant. But we did want to bring this up because this was a grant-funded program that was set to expire, to just show that that's being continued through an additional grant. Also included in this adjustment is the staffing contingency of just over $1.75 million to maintain our class size targets for next year. These resources would be deployed if enrollment justifies it. Again, the goal of these adjustments is to maintain the current level of services. Finally, we have PAIRS adjustments that are also being recommended for strategic investments. These investments do not have an expenditure or revenue offset, but have been deemed significant opportunities that align with our strategic directions and mission. These strategic investments, if approved by the board, would be permanent budget adjustments, meaning the allocation would be included in the fiscal 23 budget and all future budgets, unless another adjustment is proposed in future LRFP processes. Again, more details for each of these requests are included in the packet. The total request of these strategic investments is just under $1,150,000. Conclusion, we're recommending the school board approve these budget items as presented. And then do you want to do this part separately from capital, or would you like to do them all together as one?
Does anybody have any comments right now? Or then go ahead.
Keep going? Okay. So the next portion of the agenda is the fiscal year 2023 capital expenditure budget. The school board discussed this budget as well at the February 15th work session. I'll provide a quick overview of expenditures for the operating capital budget and the capital projects technology levy budget. This slide shows the proposed budget for each of our operating capital by division and department. Operating capital is a zero-based budget, so each item included in this funding proposal was accompanied by a capital request and moved along through the LRFP process. These items included in the operating capital budget must align with statutory guidance for designation as a capital item. Any staff salary and benefits included in these capital budgets must be directly related to the acquisition, operation, and maintenance of telecommunication systems, computers, and related equipment. First section we'll highlight is the Division of Leadership, Teaching, and Learning, or DLTL. And the items that they brought forward were replacing and maintenance of athletics and activities, uniforms, music instrument replacement, a large variety of curriculum needs to maintain and update current curriculum resources per state standards, capital allocations for equipment replacement, and building allocations. Moving into the Heart Division, maintain our lease commitments, which include instructional spaces, athletic facilities, commencement, upgrades made to flexible rooms in high schools, other equipment, camera systems, so on. Contingencies for equipment and special assessments, insurance deductibles, and also contingencies for risk management. Software licensing for safety and security systems, and additional digital radios and minor stadium improvements. And then the last area that we'll look at is the Technology I2T2 division. Primarily, their requests are for maintaining software licenses and replacing technology equipment, sound systems, and the school notification system. This slide shows the proposed budget for the Capital Projects Technology Levy. This is a voter-approved levy that first began in 2013 at 3.701% of adjusted net tax capacity for the district. It's broken into two areas. The first area is DLTL's request of $710,000, which includes items such as the purchase of online resources and media center materials, as well as the continuation of our multilingual communication tool. And also I2T2's divisional requests of $7.6 million, which includes continuation of payments for existing and new mobile device leases, support for online resources, software licenses, technology equipment, and media materials. And this levy also funds the I2T2 staff that support the district's technology infrastructure and instructional programming. A summary of the capital request is presented here, and we recommend approval of the fiscal year 2023 capital expenditure budget, including operating capital and capital projects technology levy, of a total of $17,918,656.
All right.
I'd be happy to entertain any
All right.
questions.
Do you have any questions?
I don't have I'll save it for discussion, sorry.
Nope. All right. Is there a motion to approve the fiscal year 2023 general operating transportation budget adjustments as well as the fiscal year 2023 capital budget?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Motion by Director Brooks, seconded by Director Grady. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, so in the work session, we had talked about some of the items in the pairs and about them being strategic investments. So last cycle, we made the strategic investment for the family and community engagement. So we're adding more resources into that, but we haven't really done a debrief on if we're achieving what we intended to with that. And given the information that I've seen on where there's some other needs in the district for maybe additional ESPs or some additional support that might benefit the classroom directly, I just have reservations about that. I'm not gonna vote against the entire budget for that line item, but I think that's something that should be, continue to be monitored, versus that it's just assumed that it's gonna be ongoing when we discussed it at length when we first began to fund that program. So of course, family and community engagement is important, but given the many different priorities we have, I think is just something that we should continue to evaluate versus saying it's permanently funded going forward, from my perspective.
I would agree with that, particularly tonight when we're seeing such a representation from our staff of what their needs are. We've heard so many different things. I think it's important that no matter what we're doing, we're continuously evaluating, is this the best use of our resources? And if it's not, what should we be doing? So I think just maintaining that we continue to evaluate where we allocate these resources, which, will come up every year when we review this, but.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much for the presentation and all the work that you and your department do to make sure that we're hitting all of our goals, including our strategic plan. And I think it's super important that we don't pit our need for our students and our teachers to support equity versus pitting that against the needs of our teachers, because they are all at one. Thank you.
Okay. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. All right, motion passes 6-0. Thank you so much.
Okay, just to touch on a couple next steps,
Sorry.
just so you know as how the process will continue. So thank you for the approval, I appreciate that. So at this point, our staff this allows our staff to proceed with the staffing process and pre-planning items that require a long lead time for completion prior to the start of fiscal year '23. We will finalize the budget details and monitor the ongoing legislative session to see what impact that will cause to the fiscal '23 budget. These budgets will be included with the entire budget packet that will be discussed at the June 7th work session, and then presented to the school board for final approval at the June 21st regular school board meeting. So thank you very much.
And Chair Delsman, can I just pass on my gratitude and thanks to not only John and the financial team, but all the staff that participated in this LRFP process that really goes on year-round. And I think you can see the challenge in trying to prioritize our work and trying to do the best job we can to aligning that to our strategic plan. So thank you to all those who have participated along the way or over the course of the last year. And we are already now ready to start staffing and hiring and do all those things for next year. So your approval tonight allows us to continue to move forward in that process as well.
Great, thank you so much. Final action item is the approval of gifts to the district totaling $119,024.85. Is there a motion to approve gifts to the district in this amount?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
All right, motion by Director Mosqueda-Jones, seconded by Director Douglas. I just have to say, when I look at this amount, I mean, I truly thank you, and just how important our community really is to ensuring that our students have an excellent educational experience. This really matters, and I was kind of blown away at the amount tonight. So, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes 6-0. At this time, the board will be taking a brief recess and then reconvening in conference room R-N10 for a closed session. This session will be closed pursuant to Minnesota Statute 13D.03 for labor negotiations with teachers and principals. Is there a motion to recess the regular meeting for 10 minutes and reconvene in the forum room for a closed session?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion by Director Douglas, second by Director Mosqueda-Jones. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes 6-0. Meeting is recessed at 7:23 p.m. The school board will adjourn at the conclusion of the closed session.
All right, teachers, get some sleep for tomorrow.